We are back, everybody. Welcome to Clan Brandolorian. We are back once again, of course. And I got Jimmy and Lex, and they already met last night, but now I got to get my piece. And we're going to talk with these two about what went on with the Acolyte episode 4 and everything that happened. We are here the next day, and these guys had their little after hours segment. So make sure you go check that out on Explore the Force. They do it every week after each episode that airs live. So what's going on with you guys this morning?
Starship on the
Go ahead, Lex.
Not much. I mean, just woke up kind of marinating in everything that kind of happened last night, reading everyone's comments and things of that nature. So it's been an interesting hour so far, but nothing much.
Yeah, about the same. We talked last night, and I pointed out some things, and Lex pointed some things out to me that I missed because I felt like this had a lot to do with it. So I sat down and rewatched it a second time, enjoyed it, tried to like really key in those things that Lex pointed out to me so I could see it. And I was like, oh, okay. There's just so much in this episode. So it's going to take a watch, maybe 3.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And kind of like I was saying before stream too, I feel like I had a really good impact with this episode. I thought it was really good. I wouldn't really look at it as a bounce back episode for me. I enjoyed it, but I definitely woke up, got on the internet this morning and seen some things. So it seems like everything is upside down once again, but seems a little more positive than last week, I would say. But Lex, is there anything that's taking your brain by storm this morning, the next day?
I mean, we were kind of chatting about it, I guess, like backstage, but kind of just the whole like Coyote Mundi, Plo Koon, retcon, canon, legends, all this kind of stuff that's surfacing is definitely very interesting. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely thought it was Plo Koon, and I thought that was Coyote Mundi, and it was confirmed in the end credit scenes that that was Kai. But I guess Star Wars on Twitter confirmed that that was not Plo Koon. It was just a different kind of Jedi. So I don't know. I think that's probably the most thing, like probably what's standing out to me the most. But I don't know. Some interesting stuff.
Yeah, it is very interesting because I think there's a guy on Twitter that was sent kind of like the guy looking at the other one
Yep.
like what did you just do? And then Star Wars, I already forget the name, but from what the looks of it, it's a female Keldor, so maybe it's another female Jedi that's right there. But I mean, of course, damn Plo Koon, and plus I was thinking at this time Plo Koon would have maybe a yellow lightsaber, but it was green. So it's like, oh, okay. I mean, it's not uncommon for Jedi to change their lightsaber color, but I mean, Plo Koon definitely has blue towards the prequel trilogy. But I mean,
Yep.
that's crazy. Jimmy, you see anything on the internet? Did you stay away?
Oh, I tried to stay off of the internet. It makes me sad on the inside. But no, I mean, just the same typical stuff. I was kind of shocked because we talked about last night, and I was like, oh, I guess all Syrian is a Syrian. Isn't that what Kiadi Mundi is? A Syrian,
Yeah.
right? Or Syrian or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I guess they're all kind of stuffy bureaucratic buttheads. And I'm like, nope, just Kiadi Mundi apparently. And having just read the Living Force, I was like, okay, well, at least they're keeping character, his stature the same. But yeah, the same thing. I just if because people are like screaming about Legends birth, date of Kiadi Mundi versus, the stuff we talked about. And I don't think it really matters that much. But yeah, that's probably about it. I'm trying to stay off the internet because, like I said, it's definitely a path to the dark side these days.
I'm telling you, we might find out that the Acolyte or the Dark Lord, whoever this is, it might be just some of these Twitter fiends. To be fair, it's honestly insane. Like Lex just had a video that blew up. Explore Force just had a video that blew up, and it all seemed to be around episode 3. And I actually right after episode 2, made a video that was talking about like this is a good start for Disney Star Wars going into the summer. And God, man, I had so many people saying like that's an L take. That's horrible. Why would you ever think that? Who's paying you? And it's like, bro, no one's paying me.
That's what we got
Yeah.
called shills last night by a guy. I didn't post the comment because it was pretty offensive, I felt. But he was calling the three of us because we had Alina on there as well, and he's calling us shills. I'm like, do you think that the three of us are making any money from Disney? Like, I mean, come on, we're just doing this for the fun of it and stuff. Yeah, and it's just I'm allowed to like stuff just like they're allowed to hate stuff. I'm just not going to call them because there are some people out there. I've seen some chats where people who like it are just as bad as the people who don't. They're just calling people idiots and fake fans. And I just think like everyone just needs to like take a step back and like, you like it? Nope. Okay. Do you like it? Yep. Cool. Good for you. Cause I mean, people who like The Last Jedi, I'm happy for them. It's not my cup of tea, but I'm not going to sit there and be like, well, this is wrong. This is wrong. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I think both sides need to, it scares me living in this country because what we're headed towards in November. And this is just like this feels like a warm up for that,
Yeah.
that nonsense. So I'm not looking forward to that side of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also absolutely weird that people want to worry about some. I mean, this is all why we're here is because of Star Wars, 100%. It's because we love it. I don't think any of us have built our channels on hating Star Wars because that's a little weird in my opinion.
Mhm.
A, a lot of the people that create Star Wars content, I feel like have seen the path of um downgrading or talking bad about something because like we've said before that gains more attraction than saying something's good. But I feel like a lot of them just stick with that, and it's like, and they want to be the ones that kind of say that there's levels to being a Star Wars fan. Like
Oh,
Lex might know more Star Wars than me, but what does that matter at the end of the day? We're all here. Or like
Yep.
Jimmy, you could know something about why Kiadi Mundi is in the Acolyte, and I don't. Inform me, because I want to know. That's the
yes.
whole reason why we're here. Like there's no levels to being a Star Wars fan. You don't get tiers or badges or anything. We're just here, and it's just
Yep.
not that big of a deal. And I had a person say that I'm not taking it seriously enough on TikTok. I'm like, taking what seriously? I'm just I'm just a
Amazing.
dude making Star Wars content. And for what? Because I like it. Sorry you don't like it, man. I'm so sorry. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, just like you said, The Last Jedi, like I mean, there's things with it where I'm like, why? Why is this a thing? And then but at the end of the day, I think the sequels sometimes are the most rewatchable Star Wars that
Oh,
we have.
for sure. They're so fast paced and lots of things going on. I enjoy them. I mean, I just, I
But
have my issues and that's it.
it's like, all right, guys, like there's shit going on. We have things happening in November, like in real life,
Mhm.
Yoda not making a guest appearance in the Acolyte has nothing to do with how I'm eating breakfast tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just let's take a chill pill.
Or a few.
God, man.
Full bottle,
Like
folks.
yeah,
I think
OD
that's the
on some
problem
happy
too, though,
pills.
is the biggest content creators are the loudest and most negative right now. I mean, you have the two
Mhm.
biggest that have like 5 million followers, and they just are hammering on Star Wars. And so, but the thing is, I will say this though, like our Facebook group, which is private, um, when we find people who are, and Alexi, I know you guys are both part of it. We've said like, this is a zero tolerance. You don't have to like it, but you can't say nasty things. Our membership has exploded with people looking for a positive place to be able to voice their opinion and not get destroyed for thinking something differently. And that's kind of been my thing through this. And I think sometimes the smaller groups like us, we're not massive or whatever, but if we keep staying positive, and we keep, I just had a moment of doubt there, and you guys are both like, nope, stay strong. And I think we just need to keep doing that for each other, and maybe that spreads out through the fandom a little bit. Plus, I guess maybe if we don't like things, if we like things, why aren't we making bots and blowing things up? Can we do that too? Or are bots only evil? Are bots of power of the dark side only? Because I don't know how to make them, but I will for sure figure it out, and I'll review bomb in a positive way. Some of this stuff. There's other two shows that are getting destroyed that have nothing to do with this Disney one.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
it's just so weird. Like, and sometimes I feel dumb for even bringing it up or talking about it because it's like at the end of the day, guys, this is something for our entertainment. We grew up on this, so obviously we're looking at it from how we seen it before. I mean, I still watch Revenge of the Sith or Attack of the Clones, and I'm still learning something new every time I watch it.
Hmm.
So it's like, how are you going to judge a TV show that has a 30 to 40-minute runtime and you only have 3 episodes out, now 4, but like the shit's not even over yet. The story is not told yet. Who knows if the story's told in this first season alone? We've had 3 cliffhangers already. What if we get one at the end of the 8th episode? Like, then what? Like, the world might just end.
it might end if we get a nasty cliffhanger. That's the thing too, though. Binging has kind of ruined storytelling because you just
I
can't
agree.
watch the next thing, can't watch the next thing. And I think that sometimes, even like Andor, which I loved Andor, right? Slow burn. I know some people didn't like it because it didn't feel like whatever. But that I think that show suffered because it was so slow that you get an episode where nothing really seemed to happen. But then you put all 3 episodes in that arc together, you're like, whoa, that was amazing. Narkina 5 and One Way Out and all this stuff. And you're just like, that's incredible. But I think that people have lost their patience with, and which is, being a high school teacher, I see this with my students. People are not patient. They want to react immediately. And, I think so part of the fun of doing these shows like we have and is coming up with the ideas and concepts and being proven right or wrong. It's fun when you're like, oh, I nailed that. Like I said, Indara is going to be, I said the opening scene is Indara getting smoked. And people were like, nah, no way. And I was like, I mean, I'm unhappy that I was right, but I do think that like Netflix and, binging stuff has kind of ruined actual storytelling because if you think about it, we're going to get more time with all these because people are like, oh, there's no character development. I'm like, well, we're only 4 episodes in and they're
Yep.
slowly doing it. They're
Mhm.
building up Jecki, they're building up May and Osha, like the got soul, he's gonna tell us something if he makes it back, different things like that. And I think that it suffers a lot from it, just maybe it's because I'm old and I'm like, oh, back in my day, kids, we used to watch week to week, and wait all summer to see how that happens. What happens next? So I'm old guy Jedi here. That yeah, just be patient. But I do think that the formats have kind of ruined things a little bit.
Yeah, and I think the people that are not fans, I guess you could say, of the Acolyte are like, "Oh, well, I kinda just wish I got all 8 episodes and then I can kind of see where it's going," but I guess the week by week people are not enjoying, but I kind of like it, kind of what Jimmy said is that you get to kinda speculate and have these conversations with other creators about what people think, what we might be seeing next, but I feel like there was already so much hate before we even got the first episode, or even really the first trailer. So now that we are getting episodes, it's even easier to just hate on it. And I feel like it's tough because I try to judge things. I try to be very open minded when I go into it. And yes, there are some things in Star Wars that I do not like, but that is my personal opinion. That's my own prerogative. And I'm allowed to feel that way. But I'm not going and hating on other people and kind of just shitting on how other people feel. But I do enjoy The Acolyte, but I do feel like you kind of have to give it a whole chance. We have to see the 8 episodes, and then we can kind of make a decision like, "Yep, the show sucked," or "Yep, the show was good." But we haven't even seen it. We're, like, just now halfway through, and there was already so much hate before we even got the first trailer. So it's just kinda crazy.
Yeah, it's really no surprise now that it's getting hate just because I mean the first trailer had what, like 500,000 dislikes?
Mhm.
Oh my
Like,
gosh,
Something
yeah,
like that, yeah.
come on.
destroyed.
Yeah.
And why why are we spending time wanting to hate on something that we don't even know anything about? And to be fair, I think when the first trailer for the Acolyte came out, it looked amazing.
Yep.
Like I know it's different, but I know you guys saw at Celebration a little sneak peek of the Acolyte, right?
Yeah, we saw a smidge of May and Dara's fight scene, and Jack, he was, I mean, this is his been his thing since then. I mean, a year later, he was still on, the Acolyte just from that scene alone. And it was just a snippet of it. I mean, it was like a little bit of the hand to hand and that quick push. And that was all we saw. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, whoa. Like that was awesome. So different in Star Wars, and but yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand. People, they want to talk about an agenda. That's what kills me is when people are like they're screaming a woke agenda, which they don't even understand the term woke.
Mm.
And
No,
then
no.
and then they talking about an agenda, and I mean their agenda is more clear than what Star Wars. If Leslie Headland does have an agenda, I don't think I've seen it yet. Maybe I'm just naive, and maybe I'm whatever, I'm missing it or something like that. Oh no, there's gay people in Star Wars. Well, yeah. I mean, it's a massive universe. Like, well, of course, there's going to be all kinds of stuff. Like anything you can think of, you can do it. I mean, think about the first, black and white kiss in Star Trek. That almost broke. Imagine social media back then when that happened on Star Trek, what it would be like. Good
And
Lord.
for the time. God.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like they're screaming agenda, but their agenda is louder than, and I don't know if I'm wrong. If you guys have seen something that I haven't seen, I've just seen Star Wars that's pulling from different aspects. Covens of witches. Well, yeah, they probably, I never thought of it as a kid, but they're all a bunch of women who are living together doing, like, oh, yeah, that does make sense. It's like, oh, my aunt and her friend, what, like you just never think of it as a kid, but you're like, yeah, a coven of witches. Oh, yeah, they probably are all together. You know what I mean? Like they probably do have relationships and things like that. I never thought of it that way, but, apparently that's upsetting to people. So I don't know.
Mhm.
It's crazy to me.
It definitely is upsetting, and I feel like that's probably, like, the biggest kind of outcry that I've seen is that they're pushing this agenda, whether it's, like, a woke agenda or, like, an LGBTQ agenda, but all I see it as is, like, an inclusive agenda, and I don't feel like they're doing it in such a way that's, like, in your face. I feel like it's very subtle, but it's nice to see some inclusivity, and not in, like, a way that's, like that I feel like it's forced upon, but a lot of people do feel like it's being forced upon them. I don't feel that way. Maybe that's just my generation because it seems like that whole pushing agendas thing is coming from the original trilogy type generation or those people. And it's definitely tough. Like, even in last night's episode, when Osha was like, "Is
Oh,
that a he, they?" Like,
yeah.
when talking about Basil, and they were like, "Are you effing kidding me?" Like, there it is again. And I was like, well, what is Basil? Is it a they? Is it a he? Is it a she? Like, I feel like that's a valid question.
Yeah,
So,
because
Yeah.
I
um,
mean, Tito was a Tito. So like, that the guy in the Force Awakens, that's riding that like weird horse like thing, he's
yeah.
a Tito. His name is Tito and his species is Tito. They are Tito. Like they all,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's been in Star Wars, so people just need to, I don't know. I don't know. I think, made a joke last night about the Ginger Jedi. And
Dude, when he said that, I couldn't hold it in. Like I
but I was like,
literally
I just have
laughed out loud.
a nephew's 2 or 3 months old, and when he gets older, I'm trying to think of redheaded Jedi out there. Like, hey, this could be your new hero, man, the Ginger Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
dude.
representing all kinds of kinds, gingers
Yeah,
and
dude. Like,
so
who cares, man? Like, could
yeah. They're not beating us over the head with it. They're not like, this is the way that this is the right thing. This is the right thing. They're like, hey, these are things that are happening in the world. You got to deal with it. And I see this on small scale in my high school. We have a really huge high school. Brandon can attest to this. We have a massive high school in a very small, very conservative town. And we've got people that are just like this fandom that happen with things in our school. So this, I'm kind of used to it, but the scale that we're seeing it has been a little bit overwhelming, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and
yeah,
they're like,
it's
"You're
nuts.
forcing it down our throats," and I'm like, "I don't feel like they're forcing anything down your throats," and they're like, "That's it. I'm canceling my Disney Plus subscription, like, I'm over it. This is not my Star Wars," and I was like, "Is this a presidential race or something?" Like, I don't really understand what's going on here, but I feel like it's okay to have that inclusivity, especially for the younger people. Like, I was talking to Patrick, Poptography. His
Mm.
daughter came out as bi, and she was like, "You know what? I've never really liked Star Wars, but I really like it now because I see people who are like me. And, like, I can see that it's okay for me to be that way and to be who I am because I see it on screen now." And for people of that generation and stuff, I feel like that's very important. Same thing with Rey and the whole sequels thing. I may not be the biggest sequels fan, but to some of those younger kids, Rey is my Anakin Skywalker, and Rey is the older people's Luke Skywalker. So I feel like you just have to kind of be accepting of what they're doing. You don't have to agree with it, but I feel like it's not in a way that's like so discomforting and like making your skin crawl. Like it's okay to show diversity and to have different skin colors and creatures and aliens. Like this is Star Wars. This is not everyday life. This is a different universe.
Rogue One is
That
the best example of it. Nobody was complaining about the diversity and, oh, the lead character is not a white man; it's a female and someone from, and it's like, yeah, it's good storytelling. I mean, look at that group, that cast of people. I mean, the
mhm.
bad guy's a white guy. Oh no, Star Wars is ruined. Oh wait, it happens to be probably almost. I mean, it's the one thing most Star Wars fans can agree on is Rogue One's kick ass. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
that wasn't led by a man, a white man or whatever. Like, yeah, like this, it's Star Wars. Like it's space. There's aliens and yeah, I don't know. I don't get it.
I
So
saw that I saw this interview with an older gentleman, and he's like, okay, there's so much diversity. He's like, let's go back to 1977.
and none.
And this lasted 2 seconds. He's like, who leads the rebellion? And the people were like, well, Leia. He's like, thank you. It's just
On
like,
Mothma,
look,
I mean, yeah, like
there's it's there's woman leads everywhere. There's and like just like Lex said, like I threw my hands up when it relates to other people. Why on earth would a multi-billion-dollar company in Disney want to pinpoint focus on one type of person?
Yeah.
That makes zero sense. If you're into anything marketing, want to produce your label, want to get anything out, you want to hit as many points as you can. And not being into Star Wars, like Patrick's daughter not being into Star Wars and now getting into Star Wars, could you only imagine her being like, I need more? So now she goes back and watches more. Like whether this is a huge key and a huge W for Disney, that's a huge W for her as a human being wanting
yeah,
to express herself. That's the whole thing. People in the back in the day couldn't just openly be what they are, and now look at that. Like how cool is that? Why don't we talk about the step of these people taking these large steps and being proud of themselves? Like I have so many friends that are gay. I have so many friends that are straight. I have black friends, white friends, purple friends, all friends. It's fine. But why is this the main focus of Star Wars? Let's talk about lightsabers. Let's talk about little green dudes like Yoda. Let's talk about Mace Windu, tapping into the dark and the light to master his lightsaber combat. Like, tell me something cool. I don't care about what this person, why they're mad. Like, why are we mad? Just chill. Why are we talking about this? And plus, could you imagine if it was just, like Luke, a farm boy, like on Tatooine? He's mad. He wants to be a space pilot. Like that's just a kid showing his dream. He wants to go do his thing. Anakin, we see that in the prequels. It's step by step. Ray, deserted planet. How many times have we seen a desert kid want to achieve a bigger goal?
Yep.
This is 3 times now, but we want to be mad at Ray because she's a girl. Who cares?
Yep.
Like, how about we just watch The Acolyte? The story's not over yet. Keep watching.
We're like just halfway through. Like there's still 4 whole episodes that we have to go. And then possibly even another season, but I don't know if that's even going to happen with all the hate that it's getting.
I
Man.
feel like Disney can't back down. If
Yeah,
like
they shouldn't.
that's got to be hard though because that is getting review bombed. And again, there's there's a group out there that doesn't like it, whatever. And they're louder than I almost said more loud. They're louder than it seems like we are. But Disney's got to stand their ground a little bit. Um, if it's a successful show as far as the story and things like that, but also it's a business too. So who knows? I would hate for this
Mhm.
because that's just going to give them it's like Geeks and Gamers and all those guys are like, oh, we ruined Solo, and like, why would you want to do that? Like after the Last Jedi, anything like it'll just give them more power. They think that they're changing things, and in the grand scheme of things, too, is like, even those how many people are actually Star Wars fans, and the numbers don't really add up. So you're sitting there, like you said, Brandon, like they're trying to grow it, and the more people they get out to, the better. So I really hope though that it ends really well. Maybe not a cliffhanger, so that we don't have to listen to a year of insanity. But
Mhm.
we do get a season 2 or whatever, and just kind of give the haters the middle lightsaber, if you will.
My thing too is also with like Mundi being in the Acolyte. Isn't it cool to see like another Jedi from the prequels? Like we're expecting to see Yoda just because we know, he's almost 1,000 years old, so we know that he's around during his time. But like, what about like the High Republic fans? Like, I don't read, unfortunately. I've just read Dark Disciple like 4 times. You guys know why, but like, I can only imagine how cool that is for High Republic fans to see Vernestra there. Like that's really cool, like seeing her as a Padawan in the books and in a visual. Now you get to see it on your screen, and she's older, and obviously she's pulling a lot of strings during this time. And I mean, like Lex was saying, like she's pretty shady, and I agree with that. Like I love seeing that. I want to see a Jedi like that. So like I think it's weird that we're getting some familiar notable characters, but seeing Mundi, I'd like at first I was like, "Oh, wow, so the Syrians are old. Like they live a while as well." But I feel like everyone is just so fixated on when and why these characters are here when it's just like, can you just not appreciate it? Like it's only been discussed in Legends format that he's, not that old. Like it wouldn't make sense. But it's like, why don't you just this Mundi is not the main point of the Acolyte. He's just there. How
Not
about
the
we
main
just
point of anything. I mean,
like come
he's got
on.
more time in the Clone Wars animated series than he has in Star Wars, and he probably showed up in the prequels for like maybe a minute, 2 minutes total screen time.
They're like panning over him in the Jedi Council.
Yeah. Oh, there's that weird looking. I guess they're all kind of weird looking,
There's the
but
big brain guy.
Yeah.
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 um I actually remember this is actually a really funny story. I My dad gave me the birds and the bees talk when I was younger, and I'm like 7 or 8. And my dad was like, the guy with the big brain in the Star Wars? I was like, yes. He's like, well, his species was going extinct. So he had multiple wives and had to recreate his species, like help. And I was like, wow, it's really weird. So now when I see Mundi, I'm like, this dog right here. This this guy, he's doing his thing, like saving his race. But that was always just a funny story. I remember texting I remember texting one of my boys that last night, and he's like, yeah, man, you got to hold it down. And shout out to Yoda for letting him do that. I'm like, yeah, that is true, because I mean, you can't have no sort of attachment. But yeah, I always just thought that was just so funny. I'll have to tell my dad about that later.
Yep.
But I mean, it's just like, why would we ever just want to talk about something like that and like just so bad? I mean, it's cool that we're getting other characters, and it makes me think, who's next? Who are we going to see next? Or maybe we don't. But I'm just hoping we at least get like a hologram or something of Yoda. Like I think that would be
Mhm.
cool. But
Yeah,
then it
that'd be
gets
all
a
right.
little touchy with what they could do dialogue wise. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's precedent too, though, in like the High Republic in Phase 2, they find out about these creatures, and I don't want to give a whole lot away. But then in Phase 3 or Phase 1, when they start to reappear, nobody seems to know what they are. And you kind of find out that the Jedi kind of like brushed under the rug and some stuff like that. So I mean, there's some precedent for because everyone's mad about the Mundi's one line in the Phantom Menace about there not being. We don't even know if this is a Sith Lord. They take this guy out, and then like, oh yeah, that was just some kind of because they said in the show too a where did I have it? I have it written down. It was a splinter faction or a splinter order. They're not
Splinter
even
Order.
splinter group. So who knows?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I didn't even pick up on that until Jimmy pointed it out last night. But I think I was just talking and I was like, "Oh my god, is that Coyote Monday?" Blah 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 blah. And then I realized I talked through the whole thing of them saying Splinter Order, and I was like, "No wonder I didn't effing hear that." But I thought that was like interesting. They were like, "Could this be a Splinter Order?" And they were like, "Oh." ooh, and whoa, like this is crazy. Like I don't know like what that can mean. I have like guesses and things, but I think it's an interesting
Doesn't
thought.
Count Dooku set precedent for that anyways? Like, he left the Jedi Order. He didn't quit being a Jedi. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
of course, he goes to be a Sith or whatever, but he leaves. You can't tell me that with an establishment that large, you've seen it with Qui-Gon, you've seen it with Sifo Dyas, you've seen it with a bunch of different Jedi Masters. The original the Barash Vow that starts in the High Republic and all this stuff. Like, there's no way that everybody agrees. Qui-Gon agrees with what the Council's doing. You got Ty York, the Monster Hunter, and all this stuff from that fate from the High Republic. But there would have to be groups that want to do things differently. And for people to think that the Force is only with the Jedi, and I talked about this a little bit. We called it, we teach the Reformation of the Catholic Church in history class. And if you're a Christian and you're not Catholic, there you go, right? And that's the same thing
Mm.
with the Force. Is like, they set a precedent for it in the High Republic, and I know not a lot of people are reading that, but in the comics, especially, it was really present because on Jeddah, there were like 15 different religions, and some of them call it the Force, some of them call it different things. I don't know if anyone called it the Thread or not, but they're setting a precedent for all this stuff. But to think that everyone agrees and no one's going to leave disgruntled employee, they're not listening to me. I'm going to go do things my way. I've got a better way to do this in the Jedi. I'm going to allow attachments. It's crazy to think just because we haven't seen it that it isn't out there, or the possibility is not out there. So
Right.
Jedi are not infallible. In fact, most of the time they create most of the trouble that they're involved in. Vernestra is a big one. If you haven't read her, she has some information that she's not sharing with anybody, and she's holding on to it. And I don't. This character doesn't really line up for me yet. Like, it's one of the things I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is what happens to her over the next couple books, that she turns into this political nightmare. Because she's
Right.
like a free spirit kind of thing and goes off on her own. But this closed-mindedness, if you think that these Jedi and other people can't feel the Force. Broom Boy, what's going to happen with Broom Boy? If no one finds him and he develops the Force, maybe who knows? And I just think that's fun, though. Like, that's what you want. You want different groups, and that could be an awesome battle. Like, that's what happens if Broom Boy grows up. He starts a bad group of something, and then Ray has to deal with it later on because she missed him, or you know what I mean? Like, the possibilities in the storytelling
Man.
could be phenomenal with,
Yeah.
not don't have to be Sith. They could just be an outlier group that, you know, that want to have,
That's a
maybe they have the whole idea of, the power of many or whatever, but as a group of like Force users that with lightsabers or some kind of version of it, like, that'd be cool. Open up your mind, folks. It's
yeah,
all
I
about
love
potential.
that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I mean, I haven't read any of the High Republic stuff, so I'm not even gonna like pretend that I know what I'm talking about. But I think that's kind of like what the lore of the Acolyte was to me, is that like, oh, I'm finally gonna get to learn a little bit more about the High Republic. But from what I have heard, is Vern is like this crazy wise and strong person. Like she was like one of the youngest Jedi to
The
like
youngest,
pass
yeah.
through and stuff. And then all of a sudden now we see her first episode and she's like just a political monger. And I was like, I don't know, like, that's not really what I heard prior, so it would be interesting to see if they're gonna be able to connect it, but it almost makes me wanna read The High Republic to see more, but I think that's why I liked this, is 'cause it's a period that we haven't seen before, that we don't know too much about unless you've read the books and the comics, obviously, and it's new characters, like, I didn't even need a cameo of Coyote or Yoda, like, yes, it would be an add-on because I love the prequels and stuff, but just having, like, this new time period, I thought that was, like, the coolest part of getting this series, but it seems like that's its biggest downfall. So,
Mm,
I don't know.
yeah. Trying to like retrofit stuff into things, there's gonna be some mishaps, I think. But I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
they have to do something. You gotta go back and
Yeah.
tell some stories. I mean, I guess we could just go forward, which is fine, but there's lots of stories we want to hear, and I don't
Mhm.
know.
Whether you hate it or not, like you can the biggest thing is looking at what other people have done and whether there's mistakes or not, go off of that. I mean, look at Leslie Headland. The chick gets hated on just because she's a lesbian. And like Russian Doll, one of my homies is a really huge movie buff. And he's like, Russian Doll, fire, 10 out of 10 movie. He's like, it's made by this director. It's like her first like main movie. And you can kind of tell that she just was like, here's my thoughts. Let's run with it. And it worked. So he's like, I think that's going to be good for, you guys in Star Wars, is her getting her own show. So I'm like, shit, all right, cool. I'm ready for this. And this was like a year ago. And looking at it now, I mean, why would you not want to talk about a story way out of the Skywalker saga? Because look at Ryan Johnson, J.J. Abrams, all of the crazy, horrible writing. Doesn't know Star Wars. They need to brush up on their facts. Like, I would not want to be anywhere close to that. Leave that alone. But then she wants to kind of go out of the box, or whether that's Bob Iger or Kathleen Kennedy's strings the pull. Like, hey, we're gonna talk 100 years before, since we've already talked after. So could you imagine being in her shoes and being like, all right, well, I can't do this because obviously Ryan and JJ got a lot of hate for that. So let me do my own thing. Like, I would want to be out of the Skywalker saga as well. And they already are. And like the witches, which is another thing I wanted to talk about with you guys, is do you guys think Anakin is less of a important character after that episode?
No.
Mm-mm.
Because the way I look at it is, when I heard them talk about there's no father, they're created by the Force, like, I'm like, oh, so this is how Anakin was conceived, like created. Like, wow, like, this is insane. But that's how I took it. And it seemed like a lot of people were like, oh, that makes no sense. So now Anakin, the biggest, Force user in the galaxy, is just pointless now. And it's like, no, like, I think that adds on to him. Plus, he has the highest midichlorian count. What's May and Osha's midichlorian count? If that's
Yeah. I mean, if they
like
go, oh, look, 30,000, then I was like, yeah, okay. We might be, but
3,000 max. Okay,
yeah.
you're not getting, that's I like. What do you guys think of that? Because I think that's just wild. Like, Anakin is Star Wars. The entire episode 1 through 6, even 7 through 9, it's still about Anakin's offspring and Luke and Leia. Like, their stories continue. And then who's the big bad? His grandson. It still has something to do with Anakin. Like, it's the whole Star Wars is Anakin. Like, at the end of the day.
You go ahead, Lex.
I don't know. I didn't really take it as it was undermining Anakin's whole existence and undermining George Lucas and Lucasfilms. Like, I kind of just thought, like, I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Like, like the twins didn't just appear in Mother Coral's belly and like they were just born to the Force. Like, they were created and manipulated, possibly using dark side magic, which is essentially what I kind of feel like Plagueis was trying to do, and Sidious and all of them. Like, so clearly it had to happen at some point for them to think that they could do it. So I didn't really feel like it undermined Anakin at all, because Anakin wasn't manipulated by the dark side or by some other type of force. Like, he was just created through the midichlorians and the force itself. Like, there was no manipulation, it seemed, or at least that we know of, to Anakin's existence. But I don't know. I didn't feel that way, but it seems like a lot of people were like, yep, they just totally like threw everything that George Lucas did out the window. And I was like, I don't know. I didn't feel that way. So
These are the same people complaining about George Lucas after the prequels too, though. So I mean, my generation, like, I didn't like the prequels at first, but then I've like kind of slowly come around to them, and I'm like, all right, this is a different story, whatever. But yeah, I agree. I just think some of it too is, they're we don't know exactly how Anakin was created, right? Like, I
Oh,
feel like what you said, Lex, like the Force created Anakin, Mother, Anastasia and the group. I feel like, and then of course they talk about, and she says for a reason, Mother Coral goes, what if they find out how you did it? I think that's the key. I think that, I said this when we did our thing on episode 3 last week, was I was waiting for Osha when she was crawling through that tunnel to find like shriveled up dead bodies of people whose the Force has been sucked out of to be created. I don't think it's the same. And again, that goes back to the storytelling thing. People are impatient. You can say, hey, this might infringe, like, this might be a problem, but let's wait and see how they explain it. Because yeah, I mean,
right.
if it's the exact same thing, I don't know if it takes away from it or not, but I don't think that we have enough information, because Plagueis isn't canon yet. I feel like this show could be leading to making him
mhm.
canon, but yeah, I I was super nervous. I remember, Brandon, I texted you. I was like, "Were you ready for this?" Because like this is the episode that's going to ruin Star Wars for people like us. Apparently, 'cause, I mean, you thought the world was ending with. I
Yeah.
mean, I thought we were going to see all kinds of like stuff. I'm like, well, this is Disney. They're not going to show like like craziness. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think it took anything away from it. I don't get that hyped up. Anakin's still Anakin. He's still the chosen one, or is he? Is it Luke? Whatever. But yeah, I think people they're looking for things to complain about. I do hope they explain it though. I do think that they need to come back around. I know we're supposed to get a different viewpoint of how things were. If
Mhm.
Coral's still alive because we haven't seen her body yet, I guess. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm willing to wait until this is over to make that judgment, but I don't feel like what we saw last week does anything to diminish it. Like you said, Brandon, it's like you have to learn how to do these things. And so
Yeah.
maybe Plagueis or to Tenebris or whoever, if they're going to bring all of them into it, are like, hey, try this for me real quick. Let's see how this works. I mean, because no one's just going
Mhm.
to pull that. Someone has to be the first one to try it. And I still think May and Osha might be a little jacked up. People are overlooking the fact that that crazy guy in the very first episode says, I can sense the darkness in her. And he was talking about Osha, not May. So I think there's some things go with the twins. I don't think they're going to be, but again, that's storytelling. We have to let it develop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta let it marinate. That's
Yeah.
my biggest thing, because it's just like when you listen to like an album the first time through, you're kind of like, there's a couple songs,
Mhm.
obviously, and that's just your first take. You gotta let it build up. Listen to it over and over. I mean, and if you don't like it, I mean, you just don't like it. That happens too. There's music I don't like. There's music you guys don't like, but and especially when you get a good artist that can, you know, put a story into music, and like each song is a chapter of this person's life, per se. Like it's the same thing with movies. Like I like that's my biggest thing too when people talk. I'm like, dude, you go write it. Give me a Star Wars
Oh
story.
my gosh. I wouldn't. Yeah.
I would bomb, dude. I would bomb everything. How like I don't even know where to start at all. And I mean, I know they're, professionals at what they do, but at the same time, it's just like there's so much critiquing, then you just do it. You make a Star Wars story.
I can tell you, as someone who's written 2 books, that is, it's not easy. And I'm not writing in something that's beloved. Like writing these stories is difficult. It's insane. Like that, and people have no imagination. You can tell from the complaints. They have no
Yeah.
imagination. They wouldn't come up with anything good. It would just be a rehash of something we've already seen or some legend story brought to life. We just had Cavan Scott on our show, one of the big writers of the High Republic, and he said some of the best advice he got because he was really nervous about it was because he kept pulling from legends. And like, no, 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 make something new. And
Mm,
he's like, that's when it really took off for me was I was able to create my own stories. I wasn't trying to be like attached to what had already existed. So yeah, I mean, people they want to complain about this, but I guarantee most of them, maybe there is someone out there though, could create a story that would just be like, whoa, I mean, there's people out there struggling to get their stories told and things like that. But maybe there is a
mhm.
story out there that we need to hear, but I'm assuming it's probably not from the people screaming about lesbians and things like that. So just
Yeah.
off the top of my head, I'm assuming it's not them.
It's a good assumption.
Yeah. That's my biggest thing. Dude, you need to go outside. You need to go do something adventurous or something, because you need to get off this damn phone, stay off the internet, because that's my thing too. I was talking in a video the other day, like I just pulled out the movie Twister. I love the movie Twister. Like we're in the heartland of Kansas. We're
Oh,
in Tornado Alley. I
close
love
to home,
tornadoes. It's
Brandon.
awesome.
Close to home.
Yeah. So it's like okay, for instance, if I don't like the movie Twister, I'm not going to spend hours of my day online talking about how much I hate this movie, because I don't like it. So why would I want to talk online for hours about how bad it is? That makes no sense. And I feel like that's what's going on with the Acolyte, which it's like, okay, the Twister is an hour and a half movie that it's all once. It's all at once. It's not a series, so you got to wait to see the where the story goes. So give it some time. But then it's like, why are you just talking bad about it? Why, if you don't like something, why would you just talk about it? Like, why? Because I sure don't want to do that. That just is really weird to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Because it makes me think that some of these people actually like it, but they see, big name people on the internet talking about it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that is true. I'm gonna talk shit on it now too because that's just a cool thing to do." And
That's
it's
how I
like,
get followers and blah blah blah. And
yeah,
so
it's like, yeah, but like Jimmy, like you said, they got a dungeon where they just watch it all and like, "Oh my god, I love The Last Jedi. It's so good. The Acolyte is so good." But I'm not gonna say that
they,
to the
they're
public.
they're too deep into it to ever like anything.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
they can't come out and say they enjoy something because it'll ruin everything they've stood for. You
Mhm.
know, because they're way too proud to say they were wrong. There's no
yeah,
way. And like I said last week, is if I'm wrong and this show does ruin canon, sign me up for complaining about the writing. Like, but I'm not going to be like, well, the writing was bad because Leslie Headland's a lesbian. Like
yeah.
I'm not going to like pull her life choices into it. I'm like, Leslie Headland didn't do a good job with this because who cares? Like, that's the stuff that just is mind boggling to me. And they just want to, they're targeting a certain group of people. And I don't know. But I mean, and I'm willing to say I'm wrong if like we said, like if what if this does ruin Anakin at the end? They say something and it does, like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I think all three of our channels will be like, well, that was kind of dumb.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Like, we're not
Yeah.
afraid to be like wrong about it, but we're just choosing to wait until the story's told. So I don't know. It's just
What if at the end of this all, Basil's the chosen one, and then Anakin is
oh
just
yeah,
belittled?
Basil's the Dark Lord. He's actually standing
Basil
looking
under
down
the
like
mask.
Indian or whatever those things are called, and they got stick arms, and he's like, "Arr."
Man, it's like, come on, guys, just be happy. But um, man, is there anything we didn't touch on that you guys wanted to talk about with episode 4?
I'm bummed we didn't get that fight scene
Yeah.
Yeah,
because it
Yeah.
was kind of
I
a slow paced episode. It probably isn't my favorite, but again, it's setting things up. I mean, obviously, it's setting up a big old battle, and that's gonna be because some of those, some of those red shirts in Star Trek are gonna. Then those dudes are getting wiped out. Most of those, I'm assuming that most of those people get wiped out next week, or we're getting another flashback. Like, what's gonna happen? That's the only good thing is nobody knows what happens next because no one's seen anything. But man, I don't know. I'm excited for next week. I want to see that battle, and especially with the fight scenes we've seen in the first 2 episodes. You can imagine
Mhm.
man,
that with a dark side user and all those Jedi. Like this is what Leslie Headland said and this is why giving her the benefit of the doubt. She's like, when she's a little kid and she sees the arena scene on Geonosis, she's like, I want to bring that to the screen again. That's what I want to see. I want to see, and I think that's what most of us like. I want to see this. That was it, the opening scene to KOTOR or whatever. It's that big Sith versus Jedi animated battle, and people are getting thrown
oh
around.
yeah,
Like that's like one of my favorite things in Star Wars because you get to see those two groups like going at it and like superhero fighting. So um, I think that this episode is setting some good stuff up. There are some questions. Why didn't I think we talked about it last night a little bit? Lex was why May's all giving herself over to the to Kalnaka, and then she's got 7 or 8 Jedi out there. Why did she didn't come out? But also everything turns to dark. She can feel that
Mhm.
presence. She's probably scared to death. You know. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a pretty good episode. I enjoyed it. I'm trying to think. There's lots of questions. They keep I hope we're not getting JJ Abrams where they're just question after question after question and not going to answer things. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Hopefully, this gets wrapped up in 4 more episodes, or at least gets us to a point where everything kind of makes sense. If we get the story that Soul was willing to tell May and Osha, like what actually happened or whatever, then I'll be all right with it. So
Yeah, I think Soul's comment, like, "Oh, I'll tell you when we get back to the ship." I feel like we're not gonna make it back to the ship with
no,
Soul, so I don't know.
he
I
said
feel
that.
like
I was like,
that would
no.
kill me. I love Soul, but I feel like when they say that, they're like, "I'll tell you when we get back," and we're not going to. But I don't know. I thought it was interesting that May also switched sides so like early, and then she
Golly.
was like, "You know what? Oh my god! Like there's no way that he would come find us." And then he ends up like killing Kanaka, and she was like, "Oh my god!" And then it becomes like black, and then she just like stays in the hut thing, and there's like 8 Jedi out there. But I think it kind of is like a testament to how probably strong this character is, like 1 on 8, plus May and
Wild.
Osha is like crazy. And the fact that he just literally was like, and flicks her out of the way, I was like, yo. Like, and then leveled the rest of the Jedi. Like, I thought that was like kind of crazy. But the one thing I am seeing from this episode is that they were like, oh, it is so clear now that he is Chimera. Like, Chimera is the guy in the helmet. And I was like, is it really that clear? Like, I feel like that's just such like an easy cop out.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, I'll admit that I feel like it's him, but I hope you're right, Lex. Like, I hope it's not that bad of storytelling where it would be too easy if it was him. But man, it makes it. They're really making us think it is.
and
They
I'm
hey,
trying to
that
like look at his. I went back and I watched the episodes where like he's talking to May and to see if he kind of stands at the same height over May or Osha while they're having conversations as he does when he's standing on top. But that could all be camera angles and things too. So yeah, we'll see.
I was gonna say the way, because I was at work, like I had to pick up last night, and I had it on the computer in the office, and man, when they did that turnaround scene and Osha was just kind of like shaking a little bit, and like you just see Soul kind of just slowly turn around. I was like, this is, I think I know what's about to happen. But the way he just slowly floats down, I was like, stop it. That shit scared the shit out of me. I was like, no. Like,
Mhm.
I was like, man, this is crazy, because like I'm a huge horror guy, so I love seeing that. And I was like, man, I feel like I've seen this before. Like, what's gonna go down? But obviously, it is a lighter skin tone person. You can see like the wrists and a little bit of the hands, and then I think you can see a little bit of the neck or from the back or something. Um, but yeah, so I mean, if it's Chimere, cool. Maybe his character can be a little uh, more evilish, because he's kind of like, oh, like let's not do this because that's not good, and then he's just kind of hinting. Maybe it's someone that he's actually closer to, because I feel like if he said that he's like working for the Huts, like in episode 2, I believe, and then kind of going back and he's just the Sith guy after all, I feel like that's kind of just like but I mean, I'm either way, you got to be down with it, because I mean, whatever it is at the end of the day is what it is.
You
Mhm.
But yeah,
guys think? Do you think that he's the big bad though? Or do you think? Because I mean, the Acolyte. Another thing, people are like, oh, Leslie doesn't know Star Wars. The Acolyte comes from like deep canon from the EU. Like the the apprentice of the Sith Lords followers are the Acolytes. So do you think that is he getting taken out and then the big bad's going to show up? Is it Tenebris? Is it Plagueis? Like, are they setting this up? I mean, because next week, does he wipe everybody out, at least get them unconscious, knock them out, and then flee, and they're chasing them? Or is it going to be this is because I mean he's the Acolyte or it's the Acolyte. We'll just say it for now because we don't know boy or girl, and that's not being negative. I just don't want to assume. All right, they are negative. Being so, is that going to be? That's what I'm looking forward to. Like, why not look
right,
forward to the positive stuff? Like this could be the gateway to Tenebris or Plagueis, because he's an
Mhm.
acolyte. If he's the acolyte of Plagueis, who's actually underneath Tenebris right now, or whatever. I mean, we've seen it with a bunch of stuff in Star Wars, especially in the Clone Wars with like Asajj and even Dooku and
oh yeah,
Darth Maul and all of those guys. So I don't know, be cool.
yeah, it's a good look. I'm excited to see what happens. I mean, why would you just want to watch these 4 episodes so far and just want to be done?
Yeah,
Like, obviously they set you up for a reason to be hooked for the next week, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I definitely did. On the edge of my seat, I was at the end of yesterday's episode.
Oh
That was
yeah,
crazy.
but yeah, I'm liking how everything's coming full circle, especially with the trailers, and it seems like I feel like we've seen everything for the most part. I feel like 90% of it's covered, but I mean, there's a good field where it's like, oh, we still got a little bit more left to
Yeah.
answer. But
Flashback, I think, is all that's left, right? Is that like Kalnaka versus Torben flashback?
Mhm.
So I mean, whenever we get May's side of things or the story, I guess, like what you said, when we get that, I think that'll be the rest of the, which is kind of crazy. They're showing us stuff all the way into the 5th episode. So,
yeah,
because usually, I mean, with most of these shows, it's like the first 2 episodes or first 3 episodes, and then everything's new. So,
yeah. Well, another thing too that that I'm thinking is May ends up like falling down when her and Osha are like bridge to bridge when they're younger.
Mhm.
Like who May's still alive. Like who saved her? Was it the Zabrak lady? I can't remember her name.
Mother Coral.
Well,
Yes. Like did she save her? Like maybe she caught her and they do their thing. I mean, who knows? Like there's still something that happened that night, and of course they're giving us that like POV thing of multiple um or multiple POVs, kind of seeing what's actually happening. So I want to see all these stories kind of come together, which
Yeah. And that needs to happen, I think, but it will.
yeah,
I hope.
and yeah,
I do hope.
100%.
'Cause
Or you can get JJ Abrams, of course. The answer's unknown, but hopefully we don't get that.
yeah.
But,
So we'll find
well,
out.
I think we all enjoyed this episode from what it looked like. I didn't know if maybe the next day you guys were kind of swayed different, but you guys are good friends of the channel, so that's why I wanted to get you guys here, just because I know we're all like-minded. But sometimes I do like when things are off because it just sparks more conversation. But yeah, 100%. Lex, do you want to tell everyone where they can find you?
Sure, it's either Jedi.Lex or _Lex on pretty much any social media channel. I kind of just do everything, all things Star Wars, unboxing videos, conventions, reactions. Try to just keep it light and fun and put out content that I enjoy making. But that is where you can find me.
Hell yeah, go follow her. Good content. Go follow her. Jimmy,
Absolutely.
where can the world find you?
You can find Jack and I at Explore the Force on all the social medias. We do this kind of the same stuff. We do weekly podcasts. We'll do reaction shows. We started doing live shows on Thursdays just to get some people involved and get outside thoughts. And we've had some negatives, but we've talked with them. We do Lego videos. I haven't done a lot with the Funkos yet, but I do a lot with the Legos and just fun Star Wars content. Try to get into it. We got some new things coming down the line. So yeah, just check us out, Explore the Force. And we have a pretty safe Facebook group, so, so if you want a safe place, even if you didn't like the Acolyte, you want to come talk about it, join us there. And you'll be safe from any kind of insanity.
Yes,
Nice.
absolutely. Good group. So go join them if you're on Facebook. But yeah, as always, thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate it. And episode 27, thank you guys for tuning in. Clan Brandolorian, I'm out.